Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Cities with John. I'm This Old Gamer, and I'm thrilled to have you along for the ride today as we are all set for Downtown Episode 18. Welcome to Sloop John Island. And it is a beautiful day, partly cloudy skies, 10% chance of rain. May want to keep those umbrellas handy. Yes, it's really coming along. Look at that beautiful view of downtown. And downtown episode 17, we created the Acacia District, featuring a really nice art center inspired by Millwood Art Center here in Louisville. A little something old, something new, beautiful park, all sorts of good stuff. Really a lot of fun on that episode. I think this episode is going to be a lot of fun as well. Stick around, we will be right back. This Old Gamer is paid for by contributions by viewers like you. And by... Hello, this is Larry Money, CEO of Sunset Strip Casinos. And I'm proud to announce, due to some illegal lobbying and insider deals, our casinos at Violet Park are now COVID restriction free. That means you'll get the casino experience that you're used to of yesteryear. And don't forget, we're open 24 hours because, well, we're not part of that mandate either. Come check out Sloop John Island's premier casino resort right outside of historic Violet Park. Sunset Mountain Resort, where everyone's a winner. So I am attempting to fill in all these gaps. I've kind of built a little bit everywhere, all over the place. I've been kind of sporadic at times, so I apologize if that has driven anybody other than myself, of course, crazy. Today we're going to be focused on this area right down the street from Acacia, which it could technically still be part of the Acacia District, but it is not. This is going to be a brand new district, and it's going to kind of center around this high school. This is a Modular high school. This high school is by Ionwind, which has a lot of beautiful, beautiful assets on the workshop, but not that well known of a creator, not, I guess, in the top tier, but let me tell you, definitely check them out. They got some really cool stuff. What's great about this Modular high school is you can really do whatever you want to do with it. I am not setting it up like the diagram shows on Ionwind's workshop page. I'm actually doing it in my own way. And it was a bit tricky to kind of squeeze it in here. We actually don't use all the buildings that you see here. I ditch one of the longer buildings there on the right to make room for this auditorium. But just a really beautiful asset and a nice little break from the typical high schools on the game. Even the good ones on the workshop are usually just one building. So this is refreshing to have a Modular school. And when I put this together, I started using just these parking lots that act as buildings and kind of changed my mind. So here is the first round of finished products for this high school. It was a combination of the parking lots, regular parking lot roads, and the new big parking lots. And it's really my first time using the big parking lots, and that's the center portion there in the middle. So you can see how they kind of contort a little bit better than the regular parking lot roads that are more jagged and straight and right turns, left turns, and things like that. So we're using a lot of procedure objects. So I thought I'd give you a little peek behind the curtain. So whenever I have to make a procedure object sign, I just hit Control Alt and Escape, go back to Windows, and generally when I'm making these kind of signs, I will use just Paint 3D built into Windows 10. It's simple enough for what I have to do on the game. So this team, or this school, is going to be the Buccaneers. So this is a billboard that we are going to make for the team. They are really good at soccer. So they are back-to-back state champions. They've won the state championship 12 times since 1997. I am making that up, but it is based on something you'll see here in a little while. So I just go in, use the Paint 3D, save it as a .png file, and then just put it in the correct folder for procedure objects. And that's kind of how I go about making my signs. I just leave the game open, go right back into Windows, make the sign, go back into the game, and voila, we're done. I'm not sure if that works easier for me because I have a somewhat newer computer that runs a lot of programs. It's a Ryzen processor, so they're kind of known for multi-cores. So here's all the years they got the state championship. So if they're going to be state champions, they're going to have a pretty nice high school soccer stadium, and that is what we're going to build next. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy making signs on procedure objects. I know a lot of people don't like fooling with that. They rather just download different signs and billboards, and of course you can do that too, and I do that as well. And some people will actually use the in-game editor to make those kind of signs as well. So this is another thing that I kind of change up a little bit as I go along with the parking lots. This soccer field is a King Leno High School soccer stadium. He makes some tremendous school stadiums. We have a large group of teenagers going to school, I'm assuming. Blonde Mafia there, joining them. Got those bikers out front. Very intimidating group there, heading to high school. Reminds me of the good old days. So yeah, the asset here I'm using is a King Leno asset, but as you can see, I've already turned it. And the reason for that is there are built-in pathways. This serves as a park, and those pathways were kind of giving me some trouble because I had people walking through the middle of the pitch or walking down the side of this stadium. And technically the stadium is not open to the public. It's not just walk on to anytime. This is a pretty prestigious school that has a really nice soccer stadium. So it has gates like you would see in a regular stadium, and it has restrictions of who can enter it when it's not in use. So to defeat that, I ended up rotating the stadium this other way, and then I put an invisible pathway right behind these bleachers, which I'm now covering up with decals. That got everybody basically walking on. As you can see, I'm moving that node around. Basically everybody started using it, but it was kind of difficult to get the node to connect properly. I'm assuming because the soccer stadium's sitting there, they just started walking that direction because it was close enough to the other side. But generally, unlike cars, the people in this game usually behave themselves. So they don't just walk across an entire field to get to where they're going. They usually take sidewalks and things like that and go to the actual entrance. So I guess there's just entrances and pathways all around this soccer field, just kind of like built in. But there you can see people are still kind of going toward the soccer field instead of just using the path. So I just do a little tweaking here or there and get that path right where it needs to be. And eventually they start going and following the rules and staying out of the stadium. Still a few people to get on there, but. So we have some fences here that we're putting in behind the goalpost, so no balls go flying into the tram. Boy, that's a news headline waiting to happen. So we're putting these fences in behind, prevent those soccer balls from flying all around. And to kind of add to the realism of this being a legit high school soccer team, I have this Adidas LED billboard advertisement. This is by, oh boy, my H4F1Z. Oh, that is actually square bracket my in square bracket H4F1Z. So they have a lot of these little LED billboards, and they are some really nice assets. They're rather large, so you might have to kind of shrink them down a little bit to work with your built, but that's okay. They're really nice looking. So here I'm just kind of copying and pasting the signs from the high school, and I'm going to name this stadium James O'Connor Stadium, named after the first coach of Louisville City FC here in Louisville, Kentucky. Led them to the USL Championship in 2017 and half of 2018. He left then, but he is back, so we're just kind of naming it after him. He's the most famous former soccer / coach that personally I know, I guess. So we're putting these signs on either side of the stadium. I think that looks really good. I'm just going to probably keep that like that. We added in some benches, and we have some little sponsorship signs around the middle of the pitch, and then I'm putting in these bushes to kind of serve as something to block the ball from flying away, but also just for some decorations. And there you have it. Nice little soccer field, great little entrance underneath the overpass there. You just kind of walk across the street from the high school, and you are ready to cheer on your team at Sloop John Central High School. Here we're putting in the Museum of Fine Arts, which is actually a functioning high school as well. So we have double the amount of high schools than we had originally. I think there is another high school somewhere. I kind of started the city off with very, very little focus on education. So there is a lot of area in the early part of the map that has little to no schools. I've got to go back and fix that. I was kind of thinking that, and it was when I first started this map, even before I started, I guess before I even started doing the YouTube stuff, I just kind of was building the city thinking I wanted a bunch of people that were going to work in industry at first, and then I thought I could build up toward the office buildings and the places that you would need educated workers for. But I still don't have any universities, and I'm proud of it. Maybe that's something we can do down the line. Maybe I need to get that universities DLC. It's the one DLC I don't have. That and Sunset Harbor are the only two DLCs I have not got yet. But playing the game like this, I hate to say this, don't listen. Cover your ears, Paradox Interactive. Playing the game like this, I don't really feel like I need to get the expansions all the time. So, because there's really nothing vanilla, and they also update the game on a major scale every time there's a new downloadable content to purchase. They also just do a large upgrade on the game that usually breaks all sorts of mods, which we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'll tie that into something else. But yeah, this is a fine arts center by Geze. Failed to mention that earlier. Is it Geze? It's a French name, I believe. I'm sure I'm butchering it. But it does function as a high school. But we're actually going to not make it a museum or a high school. We're going to kind of make this a library. It's all educational, so, you know. But this is kind of like what I'm going for in this area. The same thing with Acacia that I did with Acacia, which was kind of mixing in some older buildings in with some newer buildings where it's all just kind of, you know, tied in together. Maybe there was a little bit of a revitalization to the area, but not the whole area. And some of these buildings were very historical buildings that had been there for years and years. This building is actually based on a fine arts center in France. That's why I thought that Geze was French. If there is any French listeners, please tell me how bad I'm screwing up that name. I had to pick a bunch of assets today with difficult names to pronounce. Or, well, not really difficult, but, you know, H4F1Z. Here I'm just kind of repositioning this sign. People are walking right underneath it, so I just decided to attach it to that light pole. And then we're putting a little shrubbery all around here. Turn up the sun. I love this building. It looks fantastic. And it's the Maro Library. I don't know who that is, but that's what it's called. Sticking with some of the older type buildings, these are some nice apartment buildings. We're going to just kind of wedge in here. And I converted these roads over to I believe these are UK roads. They originally were tiny roads, but tiny roads have, if you've noticed before, the tiny roads, the skinniest roads you can possibly get, they are vanilla roads. They have a little bit of where the sidewalk is kind of is elevated, has like a little bit of a hump off of the ground, and they're very difficult to deal with, especially with making pathways and stuff. I still sometimes use them in special circumstances, but decided to convert them over to these UK roads. So this little apartment building complex, we're making just a little patio for the people that live there to enjoy. And I had to throw in a little door there on the side because there actually wasn't a door there. And then just putting a couple of pergolas together, kind of give a little shade and some uniqueness to this building. Just tuck that one away into the actual side of the building. Nobody will ever know. So a lot of traffic in this area, that's for sure. I have had about 3 or 4 incidents where I have had some tremendous traffic jams, which was kind of exciting because I haven't had traffic jams in a while, and that's something I definitely miss about the vanilla game is, having to fix traffic jams and traffic issues. But I dipped from 75% all the way down to 50% on traffic. And it really all boiled down to one major intersection. And since then, it was actually 2 intersections that were close by, but coming off the interstate. But since then, I fixed that using timed traffic lights, which is part of the Traffic Manager President Edition. I guess it'd be presidential, whatever you want to call it. TMPE. So TMPE has the timed traffic lights, and I've never really messed with them before. I was somewhat intimidated by them, especially in the earlier TMPs, because that mod does not exactly give you a lot of tutorial in the interface, so you don't scroll over things and it says what it does. But they fixed that. They've gone back and fixed a lot of that, and now you can figure things out a little bit easier. And I started messing with the timed traffic lights, and wow, it's like its own little mini game. You get on there and you start. You can be like, oh, I want everybody to turn left for 30 seconds, and then when that stops, they go this direction, yada yada yada. So it's something I was thinking about possibly making a tutorial just specifically on that. I'm sure they're already out there, but I haven't made a how-to video in quite a while because I haven't really done too many things that I haven't done before as far as the more technical things on the game, I guess you could say. So anyway, that was interesting, and really all I had to do is fix a couple of intersections, and we went from 55% all the way back up to about 75% pretty much instantly. This is a vanilla building, by the way, that I just kind of put back to back, and I didn't really know exactly what to do with it. So I've had these Olive Garden signs for a while. I downloaded them subscribed to them a long time ago, and never got the actual restaurant. I never got the actual building. So I was kind of looking at this and thinking, you know what? This kind of looks like an Olive Garden. I know it's a little bit of a strange place, but maybe this is like the first Olive Garden in the city. It's been there for a while. Maybe this is the original Olive Garden, like Mr. Garden comes around and meets all the patrons. Just kind of sorry. just kind of sprucing up this Olive Garden slash random vanilla building. You can see that at one point it was painted the same green as the Olive Garden logo. However, the sun has faded that roof. That's what I'm telling myself anyway. Oh dear. Oh man. What are we doing here? So putting in a little curb. I like those little stairs too. Those are really easy to use. I want to look up and see who those stairs are by. Let's see. Objects. Ah, yes, here it is. These are by PelusoNN. Man, what is it with these names today? PelusoNN? So yeah, they make module steps basically that you can just put together however you want. They're non-terraforming, so you can move them up and down, and it kind of saves you a little headache with steps when you have to make a staircase and you don't want to mess around with everything that goes along with making staircases on this game. So we are now on the other side of the high school, and we have this little corner next to the canal, and I thought this would be an excellent place to make a large water treatment facility. My water availability was starting to creep into the yellow, and I was thinking, well, we probably need to add a little bit more to that as my population continues to go up. As you can see there, it's 61,760 at this point. So as that population climbs, I'm going to need more water availability. And this canal water is very fresh water. It is not anywhere close to the people's mines. It is kind of people's mines. All secluded on this corner, away from the pollution. The water flow is not going through this canal. It's actually, well, because of the way I put my water generator, it's in the middle of that canal, so the water is actually flowing in two separate directions, which I covered a little bit about on the Riverview episode. And I never really changed that because at this point, to change a water source spot like that is dangerous. You could possibly flood your entire city pretty easily, or you could dry up that canal in about 10 seconds. So I'm just leaving it the way it is. So I'm just kind of tucking in a lot of these water plants and clarifiers and all these different things, pumping stations and all that, just kind of tighten them in here. And using these network pipes to kind of give this a little bit of a different look from just throwing down a couple of clarifiers and calling it a day. But this is a nice little place for a water treatment center. It's away from everything. The only way to access it is on the eastbound road, heading back over toward what will become Windy River. Spoiler alert. So that area over there it kind of connects you to downtown. Excuse me. And it's a one-way road. So it's difficult to get to this place, which could make things a little tricky when it comes to garbage pickup and stuff like that. Usually if your garbage trucks struggle to get to a place, your garbage will pile up regardless of how much you try. Hey, Jackrill's online. But regardless of how much you try to get those garbage trucks to go where you want them to go, a lot of times they just can't reach some places that are tucked away unless you have a garbage treatment facility rather close by. And I could not do that because that would pollute the ground over here and cause some major issues. Now, this little facility here, I use the waterfall and some procedural objects to actually animate the water coming out of that hose, which I just love. Those waterfalls you can use for a number of things. I've used them for waterfalls. I've used them for ore spouts and different industrial things. They can be used a number of different ways, and they are fantastic. And I think they're still the number one download, number one sub item on the workshop, and they came out almost 3 months ago. So obviously they are super popular with the community, and rightfully so. Just doing some adjustings. We have now the water basin in here, kind of straightening out this road. This is an industrial road, one of the smaller industrial roads, but it has a very worn look, and I really like that. I think it looks good in these kind of areas. But of course, you wouldn't want to put a bunch of industry over here, because that would also pollute the water. So here are some little workers that we're putting around those pipes. And then we're going to come right off of the industrial road using our parking lot roads, and we're just going to make a parking lot right over here. All those buildings are attached to the underground water pipes, but thankfully Move It keeps those pipes connected to buildings. When you move those buildings around, they don't get disconnected. I have had them get disconnected before when I've been adjusting them and moving them, but I'm not sure. I might have done that myself or something by deleting a pipe or something along those lines. So that might have been why that happened, but nevertheless. And we're just using surface painter, go along this brick wall here. So here's where things got a little bit interesting. I did some foreshadowing moments ago. So I started putting down these industrial buildings. I did not even think for 1 second that I would have any issues with this. But so industrial buildings put out pollution, and they put out a lot of pollution depending on what the industrial building is, and when they upgrade, they start putting out more pollution and things like that. So I'm just going along my merry way thinking, oh, this is gonna look really cool. I'm just gonna have some industrial over here. It'll kind of tie in nicely and look like it's kind of like the headquarters for this water treatment plant. And just kept building them, yada yada yada, and working on my usual thing, detailing and going back and forth and all that. And I even started doing kind of like a network slope here along that hill, since it's kind of a jagged hill and it's real close to the road. Ended up scrapping that, did some other things. So fast forward a little bit, my population, the pollution from these buildings just started pouring into the water, and my people were dropping like flies. I went from 61,000 population to 48,000 population in about 15 real world minutes. And that's with the game running on the slowest speed and with my speed slider turned down pretty low. So yeah, people were dying really quickly. And there was ambulances everywhere and so much going on. It was rather crazy. I fixed it by turning around and making every single one of these buildings procedure objects. So they have no function. They're still there, they're still visible, they still look good, but they have absolutely no function. And that kind of saved the day for me. Here what I'm doing is I use the ploppable asphalt concrete surfaces and kind of ran them over the edge there, and I'm just filling out that edge with a brick wall. That was the hill that I was intending on using the network surface, but I decided not to. So I added in this old water tower. That water tower is by Revo, who is famous for all of his railroad items on the workshop. Just fantastic creator, top tier creator. And that's actually a European type water tower, but I thought it worked really well in this build because it's kind of in between some of the newer water treatment buildings, and it kind of serves as like, this might have been the original part. So I'll put down some brick decals around it to kind of give it a little bit of an older look. And then connecting that along with turning all these buildings to procedure objects filtered out the water enough that my people started coming back, and they came back in droves. The population actually got up to about 68,000. I'm not sure if you're going to see that much on this video, but we came back even better, even stronger. So here I'm just going to put in like a little makeshift garage, just using these metal beams and also using the roof networks. And these metal beams will kind of serve as the support for this roof. And then we're just going to put some lines underneath it. This is like a little truck port, so to speak, where the employees of the bigger machines and water tankers and all that kind of stuff can park. This is not an employee parking spot, so don't even think about it. Even if you're the employee of the month, you don't get to park here. It's for the bigger trucks. See, I'm going to put them in there for you. There we go. I like how these buildings are all different colors. That's kind of fun. I just left it that way. Procedure objects would have made that pretty easy to fix, but I decided just to leave it that way. Well, that about does it for Downtown episode 18. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed building it. Don't forget to hit that like button. Leave a comment if you feel inspired to speak with me. I'd love to chat with you. And hit subscribe if you're not subscribed already for more ridiculous content and beautiful city building. From Sloop John Island, I'm This Old Gamer. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.